I'm so glad you're here. This is a replay of a live training I did inside the OTs for Pelvic Health Facebook group with Lindsey Vestal, and I wanted to make sure that everyone gets access to it. Pelvic health is such an incredibly fulfilling specialty, and it's growing so much. I've been training OT since 2018, and my goal is to have over 10,000 OTs trained by the year 2030. I'm so glad you're here learning about this specialty. I hope that you can join us in the OTs for Pelvic Health Facebook group with me, Lindsey Vestal. I will link to the group below in the show notes and description. Thank you so much.
Hello, welcome to OT Empower Hour. You may be wondering why we are live on Wednesday instead of Thursday. Our OT Empower Hours happen every Thursday at noon Eastern Standard Time, and we've been going strong for coming up this year in August, 3 years of OT Empower Hours. I switched the days today because I am so excited. I am heading to Creighton University in Omaha, Nebraska tomorrow because I am speaking at the Occupational Therapy Honor Society Award Banquet, and I am so pumped up. I'm speaking about promoting occupational therapy and pelvic health and strategies and tools that we can all incorporate regardless of the setting that we're in. So just helping to spread the word, get advocacy out there, and just let more and more OTs know we can do this. And I've been so impressed with Creighton. They have such a forward-thinking university that already supports OTs and pelvic health in such a strong way. So I decided to jump on here today and kind of share with you some of the thoughts that I'm having regarding an occupationally centered approach. I've been receiving a lot of questions from OT Pioneer alumni about this topic, about how we can continually come back to practicing pelvic health in an occupationally centered way. What does this mean? This means always coming back to our roots, always coming back to person first, and not necessarily practicing through the frame of reference of biomechanics, really thinking about the goal and orientation of the person in front of you. So I'm going to talk to you today a little bit about the history of occupational therapy and sort of how we've evolved over time to come to this occupationally centered approach that I am personally in love with. I don't think I would have stuck with pelvic health as long as I have if I didn't continually check myself and kind of come back to this occupationally centered approach that really anchors me. So let's get into that. But of course, I love to know that you're here. So if you're joining me, just let me know where you are. It doesn't have to be where you live. It could just be where you're joining me from. Put it in the comments. My comments aren't showing up right now, so I'm not going to type in Flagstaff. Oh, there they are. Tara, you're here. So happy to see you. Are you in Phoenix? I'm in Flagstaff, so I'm going to throw that in there. Thank you. I know I'm so excited to speak to Creighton. It's going to be so much fun. Already there's 125 people who are going to be there live. So I think that was bigger than my wedding. I think it was bigger than my wedding. So I'm pretty jazzed up about it. All right, so I think it was Virginia Stoffel that said, OT practitioners ask what matters to you, not what's the matter with you. I'm sure you all have heard that quote before. And I always love to come back to it because I think it gets at the heart of what an occupationally centered approach actually is. In occupational therapy, occupations, as we know, refer to everyday activities that our clients do as individuals, in families, in communities, to basically occupy their time, but more than that, to bring meaning and purpose to what they're actually doing, right? Occupations include things that people need to do, want to do, and quite frankly, are expected to do, right? And throughout the evolution of our profession, we've gone through some dodgy stages where we were really entrenched in the medical model paradigm. We were isolating parts of our body and just focusing in on zooming in on that one aspect, right? It was very diagnostic. We were very concerned about we were not very concerned about how it was affecting the rest of their body, their mind, their spirit. And because of that, our treatment and our interventions changed, and we became really focused on tasks and not so much on occupations. So does pegboard, balloon toss, arm bike ring any bells? I remember my first rotation in the hospital. That was all that we did. And that wasn't that long ago. Maybe it was. It doesn't feel that long ago. And so we were really just focusing on that one part of the body rather than the whole person, and looking at the everyday things that were really meaningful to them. Thank goodness that things have changed, right? I don't think I would have remained an OT if things didn't change. From the start, OT did not fit into a neat version of the medical model. Even today, right? OT is often grouped with very respectable professions such as PT, nursing, even speech therapy, right? I think it a lot of times has to do with the similarity of our names, our treatment processes, and our settings, right? But here's the thing, as OTs, we didn't actually replicate each other's treatment approaches though. We pulled from so many different places to develop the most beneficial way to functionally empower our clients. Now, this did bring in aspects of PT and nursing and social work, psychiatry, orthopedics, and probably so much more. Immediately, OT stood out as a unique and holistic practice. As OTs, we have this incredible chance to shine and to offer what no other healthcare profession can. And this is the use of occupation-based activities to promote healing and to restore dignity. Right? With our clinical eyes and our very unique skill set, we can turn daily activities into meaningful therapeutic interventions. When OTs use purposeful occupation-based interventions in our work, we're using something that has significant relevance to the client's life in their environment and in their context. It's not just this like rogue, repetitive task that's fabricated or mechanistic. So we're always coming back to asking ourselves, is this meaningful to them? Is it purposeful? Is it therapeutic? And I think, most importantly, is it internally motivating? Because here's the thing, right? If we just focus on a skill, a particular skill, and not that bigger picture, it actually doesn't matter if our client can, I don't know, step on and off the mock staircase in a rehab facility. If, let's say, they can't get on and off the bus, they have to use to work daily. So in this way, I really believe that participation in occupations can be considered both the means and the end in the OT process. And I honestly can't think of anything more beautiful. What about you guys joining me live? Tara, anyone else joining me? Tracy's in the car. Let me know, does this resonate with you? Are you feeling this when I talk about this sort of coming back to that meaningful state of carrying over to function? Because this is the stuff that lights me up. So for example, I'm thinking about a client that has anxiety about maybe becoming a new parent, right? And comes to us with the goal of reducing that anxiety, right? We could use yoga or mindfulness as a therapeutic occupation to help the client reach their end goal. However, we could use the same activity, yoga or mindfulness, as a means to an end. So our client has an illness that stops them from doing their weekly yoga practice. We break it down using task analysis and activity modification in a very approachable, stepwise fashion. So in these examples, yoga becomes a means and an end. And in both scenarios, it's motivating and engaging for the client. So let's get into even more specifics now. I'm wanting my thoughts to come across really clear here. So as you know, we specialize in pelvic floor therapy. So I'm going to use an example from my private practice, the functional pelvis, when it was still open in New York City for a client that had painful intimacy. Okay, so this particular parent was 20 weeks postpartum. Her partner really wanted to return to intimacy with her. And out of fear of pain, this client was avoiding him, right? So here is this incredible opportunity to focus on the occupation of intimacy while going so much deeper. No pun intended. No pun intended. We got to have fun with our specialty. So together, this client and I worked out that she had little desire to return to intimacy because she was afraid of the pain. But I think even more than that, she also lost her connection with him in the process. So she felt like she wasn't getting the support that she needed as her new role as a parent, and she wasn't actually able to share this with him. Physical and emotional intimacy wasn't available between them, right? So she had also leaned into, throughout her sessions together, that she felt like her body wasn't hers anymore, and she couldn't imagine sharing it with someone else. I actually heard that a lot in my private practice. And so some of the things that were contributing to, I think, this feeling that she was expressing was she had gained an extra 30 pounds through the process of being pregnant and postpartum, and the baby nursed so often that she felt like she was, quote unquote, touched out. So understanding this multidimensional factors, right? How she felt unsupported from her partner, she thinking about what her perfect intimate occupation looked like, she felt touched out, she felt self-conscious about that weight gain, and this all affected that pelvic floor. She didn't just have pain with insertion, she feared the pain, and she didn't have the desire, right? And so that connection was lost, and even she had felt a loss of connection to herself. So we worked through nervous system down training, we talked about expectations, we talked about communication with her partner, strategies for pumping and getting assistance with bottle feeding, her partner helping her with her internal work as a form of shared intimacy, modifying positions, and even incorporating scar massage. And with all of this combined, this multidimensional approach, right, she was able to return to her occupation with a much more deep multidimensional understanding of what was so fulfilling for her with her relationship with her partner and herself. And of course, this positively impacted her relationship with her new baby as well, right? So as OTs in pelvic health, when we embrace being stewards of occupation and facilitate our clients' awareness, right, of all of the ways occupation impacts the pelvic floor and vice versa, it really infuses our therapeutic relationship with our client with really deep meaning. They feel heard. They feel understood. And I have to say that the mindfulness of the mundane can be such an opportunity for a nervous system reset. So when our clients use ADLs such as lifting their baby from the ground without pain, or emptying the bottom rung of the dishwasher without feeling prolapse symptoms, as opportunities to not just, barrel through that activity, but check in with their pelvis and neck positioning as they hinge, or check in to see that they're not holding their breath so they can better manage their IAP when lifting that heavy, heavy pot from the bottom of the dishwasher, right? This activity, these mundane activities become mindful, almost a sensory activity, a sensory anchoring activity of focusing on the here and now. And I have always felt this way. We don't need to just squeeze in 10 clamshells or leg slides at the end of the day when we can use our life, our environment, our occupations as a way to re-engage and heal. And when these activities become mindful in this really simple way, the nervous system steps into parasympathetic flow and feels settled. Now, this alone, this ritual of stepping into calmness in small, frequent moments throughout our day dramatically impacts the pelvic floor. We know that when we work with the pelvic floor, we are working with the nervous system. So always got to come back to safety and belonging, because that is such a pivotal part in our client's healing journey. It can also be about navigating a new role, right? As OTs, we know the power of roles, habits, and routines. Another client I'm thinking about is a college student. And I think she came to us for painful intimacy, but also had constipation, diarrhea, a whole bunch of gut issues. I think she had SIBO, which is small intestinal bacterial infection. And by understanding the routine of being a student and the impact of stress on her system, which I can definitely relate to when I was in graduate school, and how she didn't want to go to the bathroom on campus. She would keep it all in until she got home. She also had a significant amount of stress going into meal prep because she had a strict FODMAP diet. It's a special diet due to her SIBO diagnosis. And she also understood how holding her bowel movement, that loss of enjoyment in meal prep and eating, all of this heightened her nervous system state with school and really impacted her elimination. She had developed an overactive pelvic floor, all leading to her experience of painful intimacy. Now, again, this shift of role change and the ripple effect it had on so many areas of her life absolutely had impacted her pelvic floor, just like that new parent I talked about a moment ago, right? It was so much more than a single diagnosis. And we are so much more than a pelvic floor therapist. We literally address the pelvic floor in the context of what matters most to our clients. We are always facilitating a more meaningful life for our clients by thinking through all of these factors that we've mentioned today that really impact one another, right? And then our clients see it as this interrelated system that it actually is. They feel empowered, extrinsically and intrinsically motivated to do something about it. And what a gift to give to our clients. What a gift to be this example to your colleagues. And I say this because I'm thinking about that student who came to me in a very PT-dominated clinic, and felt very aware that she was the only one leaning this way. And I say lead by example. Lean into what makes you an OT. Because this example, this meaningful example, your colleagues will see it. They'll see the way your client is responding to the fact that you're listening to them. You're coming back to that nervous system centered approach that I believe is so integral to pelvic health. Occupation is the medicine itself. When we participate and engage in the activities and experiences that really light us up, it becomes that open door that leads us to think and feel and shift into a new state of well-being. And what's so cool is that we finally have the science behind what we as OTs have known since the 1900s about the power of occupation. Now, this new field is called psychoneuroimmunology. And it's that science behind what we do when we do what we love and we use occupation as medicine. It profoundly impacts us on a biophysical level. And it shifts our biology. It shifts our biochemistry, right? When we do things that lift us up mentally, emotionally, physically, it sends out a cocktail. It literally sends out a cocktail of endorphins that surges through our blood. Dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin. So this biochemical reaction is linked to our nervous system, our immune system, and it has this bi-directional relationship with all of these components. So our nervous system moves into a parasympathetic response. Our immune system is impacted, right? Our white blood cells start working more effectively. And it also lengthens our telomeres. Now, these are those guys that cap and protect the end of our chromosomes. It's kind of like that shiny part at the end of the shoelace that keeps it from fraying. And they bring a quality of life and well-being and longevity among so many other healthy functions. So science is proving what intuition has known for forever, that the power of engaging in occupations is so incredibly healing. And that occupations are restorative, right? We saw this in the 1900s when soldiers were coming back from life-sustaining injuries from war. They were starting to get back into those meaningful things that brought them joy again. And it's so cool that we now have research to support what we do and why we do it. Now, it is such a privilege for our profession, I think, to kind of like step back and look at our clients in their entirety. Looking at their social, their physical, their environmental context. Wait, we get to look at their bio, their psycho, and their social well-being that makes them feel so seen and so heard. And it's remarkably fulfilling as a therapist to see them this way. We have models and frameworks to really step into this, right? I was just speaking about this yesterday with Joanna Sieber, a former OT Pioneer alumni who's helping me with my Kristen Carnes and I's case studies book, which is still on track to come out this year, the first OTs in pelvic health case studies textbook. And we were talking about these frameworks that really give us a chance to give ourselves permission to fully step into this, right? Some OT models that can help us step into that occupationally centered, client-centered approach are things like the CAWA model, which looks at occupation as a narrative, the CMOP-E, which has an emphasis on engagement and spirituality and not just performance, the MOHO, which looks at change and performance patterns and their effect on volition and habits, right? This model gives you the ability to look the other way as well, right? It's truly an open system model. There's the OTIPM by Ann Fisher, which shows OT's unique role by emphasizing contextual factors as it relates to function, right? This doesn't mean that there isn't room for exercises and movement-based approaches. They're still there, right? These things often are occupations themselves, like that yoga example I mentioned earlier, right? But I encourage us to leave room for not just assuming it's what every client needs. Actively engage our clients in their goals and their desires. They are always going to be our best guides. They know what they need to move forward. We just have to stop and listen, right? And sometimes be aware when it's time to transition them into a functional context and activity. I love incorporating strategies into daily occupations and using daily occupations as treatments, right? We just need to make sure they know how to incorporate these strategies into the movements of daily life. Occupationally based treatment makes it a no-brainer for clients. They see that direct carryover into their life and they're motivated. They see their why. So let's embrace our training of manual muscle training, active range of motion, passive range of motion. That's just a portion. That's just a portion of what we do. We use manual techniques, but we also examine habits and routines and occupational performance with activity analysis. We offer positioning advice for toileting, ways to decrease scar pain by putting less pressure on a C-section scar, right? Ways to care for your kids and do ADLs and IADLs to reduce leaking, right? Ways to be independent in self-managing your own care. We treat that whole person, including the physical, but we offer so much more than manual techniques. So a client comes to see us, and yes, we help them with leaking, and yes, we help them with pelvic pain, and yes, we treat the leaking and the pelvic pain, but we do it through exercise, positioning, retraining. And when teaching our exercises and techniques, we always apply it to things like, I don't know, getting dressed in the morning, body mechanics with getting in and out of the car, posture while cleaning, and techniques to decrease interabdominal pressure while climbing stairs. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, by being mindful to sense when our pelvic floor or jaw starts gripping, this is what makes us stand out as OTs. And clients remember this because it's meaningful. Remember, the pelvic floor is so esoteric for most people, there's no reason rehab should be. The work we do with them should feel connected, related, and directly applicable to why they came to see us in the first place. So my very simple answer when I'm asked if OTs can treat the pelvic floor has always been, well, you can't get more basic ADL than peeing, pooping, and intimacy. So occupation is the central part of what makes us OTs. Our daily occupations give meaning and purpose to life and have a direct influence on our health and well-being. And the truth is, and I really believe this, OTs, there is no one better equipped than us to specialize in pelvic health. After all, we speak the language of ADLs: toileting, sleep hygiene, self-care, sexuality. And we look beyond the most obvious symptoms, letting pelvic health clients know we are there to support them, not just tell them what to do. And that's exactly the kind of treatment pelvic health clients need and deserve. And to be quite honest with you, the way I get most fired up to practice as a pelvic floor therapist. So you're an expert in activity modification, ADLs, functional activities, life balance, behavior modification, and most importantly, of occupation. So I hope that some of what I talked about today resonated with you. Let's keep the conversation going. You know I love talking about these kind of things. So if you're still joining me live and you have a question or a comment, throw it in. I'll hang out for another couple seconds here. If you don't have a question, at least put in where you're joining us from, so we know where you are in the world at this moment. And I cannot wait to see you all next week. I will be back on our regular time, which is Thursday at noon Eastern Standard Time. And if you're at Crichton University tomorrow, I cannot wait to see you there for the Occupational Therapy Award Ceremony. Last up, tickets have opened for the OTs and Pelvic Health Summit. It's happening live in Phoenix, Arizona, August 19th and 20th. Please join us. It is going to be so uplifting. Last year's virtual summit was a absolute blast. I can't imagine what it's going to be like in person. So tickets are on sale now. I'll throw the link in the comments. Also, about a month from now, OT Pioneers is opening again. So it is April 24th through 28th for the enrollment period. It's 100% self-paced, but we just open it up for a week because the course contains mentorship calls. So it gives me a chance to plan those calls by opening and closing enrollment. So I'll put the link in there too. If you want to join, it would be my pleasure to help you start your pelvic health journey. Tracy, thank you so much. I'm so glad it was inspiring. I just love this stuff. I could talk for hours about occupations, but I will be respectful of everyone's time. Have a beautiful day. Great to see you all, and can't wait to see you next week.